The drama behind the scenes just exploded. Moments after Chrissy dropped a shocking wedding bombshell on stage, Jim Jones stormed backstage and confronted her in a tense face-off, and the cameras never stopped rolling. What was supposed to be a private moment turned into one of the most emotional raw clashes we've ever seen between the two. And now fans are wondering if this is the end of their decade-long love story. The energy backstage was chaotic, buzzing like static after a thunderstorm. The live taping had just wrapped, and everyone was still reeling from Chrissy's bombshell announcement, a casual but loaded statement that she had finally decided it was time to plan the wedding she deserves. The words had dropped like a grenade in the middle of the reunion stage, shocking not only the cast but the audience and production crew too. For years, Chrissy Lampkin and Jim Jones had been the couple everyone watched with fascination. Their love was legendary, but so was their drama. From Chrissy proposing to Jim on national television to their countless breakups and makeups, they had become a love and hip-hop institution. But through it all, one thing had stayed the same. They never actually made it down the aisle. That's why Chrissy's statement had everyone's jaws on the floor. The moment she said it, a stunned silence swept across the set. Jim's face went blank, like his mind was struggling to process the words. He forced a smile, gave a half-hearted clap, and muttered something into the mic that no one could hear. The host tried to pivot back to the script, but it was obvious the tension between Jim and Chrissy had just shifted from cold to volcanic. When the cameras finally cut, Jim bolted from his seat, his chain swinging wildly across his chest. He didn't say a word to anyone, just headed straight backstage with his jaw clenched, fists tight at his sides. Chrissy stayed on stage for a few moments longer, hugging cast members, laughing a little too loudly, trying to act unbothered. But her eyes kept flicking toward the curtain where Jim had disappeared. She knew what was coming. Behind the curtain, the atmosphere was completely different. The laughter and music from the reunion stage faded into a thick, uncomfortable silence. Crew members were frozen in place, whispering nervously. Jim was pacing like a caged animal, breathing hard, his eyes darting around like he was trying to find the right words and failing. "You really gonna do that?" he hissed under his breath as soon as Chrissy walked through the curtain. Chrissy's smile vanished instantly. She dropped her bag on a nearby chair and crossed her arms. "Do what, Jim?" "Speak my truth. I've been waiting on you for over a decade. I got tired of waiting." Jim's laugh came out sharp and bitter. "Nah, don't try to spin this. You ain't just speak your truth. You tried to embarrass me on TV." In front of everybody, Chrissy took a step closer, her voice calm but firm. "I didn't embarrass you, Jim. I reminded you. I reminded you that life is passing us by while you keep saying soon. I can't keep living in soon. I want something real, something official." A small crowd had gathered now. Production assistants, stylists, and a few cast members pretending to scroll on their phones while secretly eavesdropping. The tension was suffocating. Jim rubbed his temples. "We've been through everything together. I held you down, you held me down. Why do you gotta put this pressure on me like this? Like I've been loving you all these years." "Because love isn't enough anymore," Chrissy shot back. Her voice cracked, just slightly. "I need commitment. I need to know. I'm not just the woman who waited around while you figured out your life." Jim's face twisted in frustration. He dropped onto a nearby couch and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You think I ain't wanted to marry you? You think I ain't thought about that every day? You don't know what I was carrying. The business, my family, everything is riding on me. And you. You want to pick today to make this about rings and papers?" Chrissy crouched down so she was level with him. Her tone softened, but her words cut deep. "It's always something, Jim. Always another excuse, another reason it's not the right time. I don't need a perfect time. I just needed you to choose me. But you never have. Not really." Those words seemed to hit him harder than anything else she'd said. His eyes flickered, and for a moment the mask of anger slipped. "I was hurt there. Real, raw hurt." "Don't say that," he whispered. "I have to," Chrissy replied, her eyes glistening. "Because it's the truth. For a long moment, they just stared at each other, the air thick with everything left unsaid. The cameras, which had followed them backstage without them realizing, caught every second of it, the trembling in Chrissy's hands. The way Jim's chest rose and fell like he was holding back a storm. A producer finally stepped forward hesitantly. Do you guys want us to stop rolling? Neither of them answered. Jim stood abruptly, towering over Chrissy. You know what? Fine. You want a wedding? Go plan it. But don't act like I ain't been here. Don't act like I ain't loved you the best way I knew how. Chrissy rose slowly, squaring her shoulders. Loving me the best way you know how isn't enough anymore. I need you to love me the way I need. And if you can't do that, maybe I will do this on my own. Gasps rippled through the backstage crew. Jim stared at her, stunned into silence. As Chrissy calmly picked up her bag and walked past him without looking back, he stood there frozen for several seconds. Jaw clenched, eyes burning. Finally, he muttered under his breath, "This ain't how it's supposed to be," before storming off in the opposite direction, pushing past a lighting tech who barely got out of the way in time. The cameras kept rolling long after both of them were gone, capturing the aftermath. Stunned faces, whispered conversations, and the creeping realization that something had just broken between Jim and Chrissy, and this time, it might be for real. The moment Chrissy Lampkin stepped off that stage after dropping her wedding bombshell, everything changed. The air backstage was thick, almost electric. Like everyone was holding their breath, waiting to see what Jim Jones would do. He had been stone-faced while the cameras were rolling, giving nothing away. But the second the applause faded and the crowd's cheers turned to chatter, Jim moved fast. He pushed through crew members and producers, ignoring everyone calling his name. His eyes locked on Chrissy like a heat-seeking missile. Chrissy was mid-conversation with a stylist, still glowing from her shocking announcement that she had secretly gotten married, and not to Jim, but when she saw him coming, her smile faltered. "Jim," she started, but her voice caught in her throat. He didn't stop until he was right in front of her, close enough that the crew could see the muscles twitching in his jaw. "So that's how you wanted to do this?" Jim's voice was low, but the fury in it was unmistakable. "Announce to the whole world you married someone else, while I'm standing right there." Chrissy crossed her arms, forcing her expression to harden. "You were standing there, Jim. That was the point. I wanted you to hear it like everyone else. No more secrets. I'm done hiding my happiness because it might hurt your pride." His pride, that was the trigger. Everyone nearby could feel it. Jim's pride had always been a towering thing, maybe even bigger than his love for Chrissy. For years he had kept her waiting, dangling the idea of marriage in front of her like a prize she had to earn. Now, someone else had given her the very thing he refused to. And worse, she did it publicly. "You think this is about pride?" Jim hissed. "You think I didn't want to marry you? I just wanted us to be solid first." Chrissy laughed bitterly. "Solid, Jim. We've been together for almost 2 decades. If that's not solid, I don't know what is. You wanted control. That's what you wanted. And when you couldn't have it, you'd rather keep me stuck in limbo. Have it, you'd rather keep me stuck in limbo." Crew members exchanged nervous glances, unsure if they should keep filming or walk away. But the cameras never stopped rolling. This was the kind of raw drama producers prayed for, and feared. Jim took a step closer, his voice dropping even lower. "Who is he, Chrissy? Who did you marry?" She hesitated just for a second, and that pause sliced through Jim like a knife. "He's someone who sees me, Jim. Someone who didn't need 20 years to decide I was worth it." Jim's face crumpled for the briefest moment, grief flickering behind his anger. "And you couldn't even tell me privately. You wouldn't have listened," she said quietly. "You never do when it's not what you want to hear." There was a long silence. The stylist who'd been fussing with Chrissy's hair slowly backed away, leaving the two of them locked in their storm. Jim rubbed his hands over his face like he was trying to wake himself from a nightmare. Then he laughed, sharp and hollow. "You know what's crazy? I always thought we'd end up together no matter what. Like no matter how many fights or breaks we took, we'd circle back. We were supposed to be together forever. Chrissy's eyes softened, but her voice didn't waver. We were supposed to be a lot of things. The sound guy's mic caught the faintest crack in her tone. Even though she was trying to be strong, Jim's head snapped up, his eyes glistening now, fury melting into something far more dangerous despair. "You didn't even let me fight for us," he said. "You didn't give me a chance." Chrissy shook her head. "I gave you years of chances. I waited for you through everything, the tours, the scandals, the business deals, the family drama. And you always said, not yet. Well, someone else said, right now." Her words landed like a punch to his chest. Jim stepped back, clutching the wall for balance. The man who had stood tall through street wars and industry beefs looked like he had been gutted. A producer finally broke the tension. "We should take a break. Cool off." But Jim's voice cut through them like a blade. "No, don't stop rolling. Let the world see what happens when the woman you love throws your heart in the trash." Chrissy flinched, tears welling in her eyes despite her defiant stance. "Don't twist this. I didn't throw your heart away. You left it on the shelf and expected me to keep dusting it off." Jim let out a broken laugh. "Guess I'll learn what it's like to be the one watching from the crowd." With that, he turned and stormed down the hallway, shoving a camera out of his way as he disappeared around the corner. Chrissy stood frozen for a moment, then sank into a chair, finally letting the tears fall. The room was silent except for the sound of her quiet sobs, the faint hum of the still rolling cameras. But this wasn't over, not even close. Because while Jim might have walked away at that moment, everyone backstage knew him well enough to realize he wasn't going to let this go. Not after what just happened. And definitely not after hearing the words, "I married someone else," echo in his head like a gunshot. Somewhere down the hall, the sound of something crashing to the ground echoed back toward them. Jim Jones was unraveling, and the cameras were still rolling. Jim Jones didn't just walk away, he exploded. As he disappeared down the corridor, the thud of his boots echoed like thunder, followed by a deafening crash that made everyone flinch. A lighting rig toppled over, smashing against the concrete floor. Crew members scattered, terrified that the tension had finally boiled over into something none of them could control. The cameras followed at a cautious distance, catching glimpses of Jim pacing back and forth, muttering under his breath like a man possessed. Back in the makeup lounge, Chrissy sat perfectly still, staring at her reflection in the mirror with streaks of mascara cutting down her cheeks. Her stylist hovered nearby, unsure whether to comfort her or give her space. Chrissy sniffed, wiped her face, and squared her shoulders. She had to stay strong. She knew Jim knew he wasn't going to let this go without a fight. And honestly, a part of her hoped he wouldn't. She wanted him to care. She wanted proof that he could fight for her the way she had fought for him all those years. Then, like a storm ripping through a quiet town, Jim came barreling back into the room. "Everybody out." He barked. Crew members froze. "I said out." Chairs screeched across the floor as everyone scrambled out of the lounge, clutching equipment and clipboards. The only people left were Jim, Chrissy, and the ever-present cameras, still rolling from the corner like silent witnesses. Jim slammed the door behind him. "So, that's it, huh? After everything, you just move on like I was nothing." Chrissy turned to face him, her jaw set. "You weren't nothing, Jim. You were everything. And that's why it hurts this much." Jim's voice cracked, raw with emotion. "Then why would you do this to me?" "Because I had to do something for me," she shot back, her voice shaking. "I spent years waiting for you to decide if I was worthy of being your wife. Years of begging you to see me. And you never did." "That's not true," he started, but she cut him off. "Yes, it is. You loved me when it was convenient. You wanted me there when it made you look good. But every time I asked for more, you ran. You always ran." Jim's hands trembled at his sides. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. For once, he had no defense. Just silence and pain. He slowly sank into the chair across from her, like the weight of every missed chance was crushing him at once. "I thought we had time," he whispered. "I thought you'd always be there." Chrissy swallowed hard, her eyes softening even as she stood her ground. "That's the problem. You thought I'd wait forever. But I got tired of being patient for someone who couldn't be sure about me." Jim looked up at her, eyes glassy. Is he better than me?" The question hung in the air, heavy and desperate. Chrissy hesitated. "He's not better. He's just..." Ready? That single word shattered him. He buried his face in his hands, shoulders shaking. Chrissy's heart clenched, but she stayed still, afraid that if she touched him, she'd fall apart to dot suddenly. Jim bolted upright. No, I'm not losing you like this." He stormed out of the lounge, and Chrissy rushed after him, alarm flashing across her face. Down the hallway, the cast of the show had gathered, whispering like they were watching a car crash in slow motion. Mama Jones stood among them, wide-eyed and worried. Jim shoved through the crowd and climbed onto a low platform near the set, forcing everyone's attention onto him. Cameras swiveled instantly. "You all want to see drama? Fine," Jim shouted, voice echoing through the backstage lot. "You just watched the love of my life tell the world she married somebody else. But guess what? I'm not letting her go without saying what I should have said years ago." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Chrissy stood frozen at the edge, her breath caught in her chest. Jim's voice cracked, but he kept going. "Chrissy Lampkin, I was a fool. I wasted years thinking we had forever. I let my pride get in the way of my heart. But I love you. I love you so much, it's killing me right now. I love you so much, it's killing me right now." Tears welled in Chrissy's eyes. Mama Jones clasped her hands together like she was praying. Jim jumped down from the platform and walked toward Chrissy. Steps slow, deliberate, eyes locked on her like the rest of the world didn't exist. "I don't care if you're married. I don't care who he is. You're mine. You've always been mine." The room went dead silent. Every crew member, every castmate, every producer was holding their breath. Chrissy shook her head, tears spilling over. "You can't say that now," she whispered. "Not after I begged you for years. I'm saying it now because I finally see what losing you feels like," Jim said, his voice breaking. "And I swear I won't survive it." For a moment, it was just them two souls colliding, wrecked by love and regret. Then Chrissy stepped back, her face torn between longing and resolve. "You don't get to decide now," she said softly. "You had your chance, and I can't unbreak all the pieces I had to put back together." Jim stood frozen, his heart in his eyes. The camera zoomed in, capturing the exact second he realized she wasn't coming back. The fight drained out of him like air from a punctured balloon. He staggered back a step, then another, before finally turning away. Mama Jones moved to go after him, but Chrissy held up a trembling hand. "Let him go," she whispered. Jim pushed open the exit door and disappeared into the night, swallowed by the cold glow of the streetlights outside. The heavy door clanged shut behind him, leaving behind a stunned silence that seemed to stretch on forever. Chrissy stood there, tears streaming, surrounded by people, yet utterly alone. This time, it was really over. What just happened between Chrissy and Jim Jones left everyone speechless. After years of love, heartbreak, and uncertainty, we might have just witnessed the real end of their story, and it all unfolded right in front of the cameras. If this moment broke your heart too, hit that like button to show your support for Chrissy as she moves on. Drop a comment below. Do you think Jim will fight to win her back, or is it truly over this time? And if you don't want to miss the next shocking twist in their saga, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because this love story is far from done. And the next chapter might change everything.